The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining this webinar about innovations and new solutions for small and individual bus operators. My name is Fatima Arroyo. I am a senior urban specialist at the World Bank and the acting pillar lead for urban mobility in SSATP. I'm very pleased to be your moderator today in this webinar that has been co-organized by UITP and SSATP. We are gonna tell you a little bit how it's gonna be organized our agenda today. We are gonna start with a brief presentation of around 15 minutes of this webinar. We are going to then have an exciting section of today's webinar that we have called speed dating, where we are going to have 5 startups presenting their technological solutions. We're going to pass after to have a roundtable discussion with questions to these different startups that we're going to be having today in this webinar. And finally, we will have a conclusion discussion for this webinar. So to start with the webinar, we would like to do a brief survey to know a little bit more who is listening to us today. And who is going to be participating today. So the question in this survey is, where do you come from? So please take the time to respond to this question. And while you are responding, I would like to remind you that this session is being recorded, and a summary, a presentation in both in English and French, and a recording of the webinar will be available in the UITP and SSATP websites. And also just an additional point, if you have any question during the session, I would like you to kindly write the question in the chat box that you will see in your screen. And we will be responding these technical these questions at the end of the webinar. And also, if there is any technical issue, please write it down in this chat box. So I think with this, without any more delay, we are going to start this session with an initial introduction remarks by Mr. Fisula, who is the chair of the informal transport platform of UITP. Please, Mr. Fisula, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Fatima, for your introduction and introduction for me. Also, welcome everybody to all of our speaker and the listener that joining our seminar today. We are going to talk actually the digitalization in public transport. You know, we are going to talk and discuss new solution, innovative solution in informal sector. But actually, in general, we are going to talk digitalization in the public transport. So we can define digitalization is a magic tool. I can say like this: digitalization is a magic tools that make life easy for us, for everyone, and also it make easy life of the operation and increase the comfort and the efficiency of the system, comfort of the users, and also increase the efficiency of the system. And digital tools decrease the manpower and decrease the mistakes comes from the human factor. And also, as I said, as a whole, it may decrease the total cost. So if we can combine all of them together, so digitalization satisfies the customer, worker, and operators also. It is a win-win solution. As you know, one of the title of our webinar today is a quick win-win solution. So it gives us chance to have a win-win solution. So informal sector or public transport sector exists to serve our customer, to serve our passenger. If there is no customer, so there should not be an informal or public transport sector. From the customer point of view, customer does not look whether service is given by formal or informal individual sector. So they just look the service quality. And therefore, as an operator or individual or informal, doesn't matter, the sector must have used the advantages of the digital tools to decrease the cost, etc., and make our customers more happy from our service. For myself and for UITP and SSATP, I would like to thanks to all our speakers who are going to share their expertise today, and all our listeners that they join us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fisula, for your introductory words. Now we would like to pass the mic to Mr. Mustafa Ben Mamar, who is a lead transport economist at the World Bank, at the acting program manager of SSATP. Over to you, Mustafa.
Thank you, Fatima. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. This is an important topic at the World Bank, at SSATP. It's a topic that will help achieve two main objectives. It's leveraging these digital technologies to improve the efficiency of public transport in general, but also to see how we can leverage these technologies to improve and formalize the informal sector. Today, presentations will talk about the challenges to mainstream these technologies from the point of view of operators, the users, and the regulators. So it's not an easy one. Maybe when in an environment where the formal sector is advanced, where the infrastructure is available and the regulations are adequate, but the main challenge we're facing is, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, is how to mainstream these technologies in within the informal sector as a leverage to bring some order to increase the professionalization of this sector. So I really look forward to the presentation, and we'll come back to you at the end if we can get any summary. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mustafa. Before moving forward in the webinar today, we would like to show you the result of the poll that we have done. So we see that we have a good representation from different parts of the world, 19% from Africa, 26% from America, a good representation from Asia, 33%, and 22% from Europe. This is definitely a very, very good representation from different parts of the world. So with this, I think we can move to an overview of these three webinars of informal transport, co-organized by UITP and SSATP, that Emmanuel is gonna present. Over to you, Emmanuel.
Thank you, Fatima. Hello, everyone. Really happy to have everyone on board. Just a quick reminder, actually, of the three themes that have been dealt with during the three webinars that we are co-organizing with World Bank SSATP. So the first webinar that took place really late August, 31st of August, was really to describe and try to understand the impact of the COVID-19 situation on the informal transport sector. taking into account a variety of point of views, the one from the operators, authorities, and passengers, of course. The second webinar, which took place on the 21st of September, actually was about, let's say, the question of governance of transport. After having described the situation, it was quite interesting to see how we could deal with structural concerns or structural subjects regarding informal transport. And among them, there is this question of structuring governance. And then the third webinar we're talking, which is the one which is currently going on, and we're really happy once again to have all of you on board, is really about how, as it has been said previously, technology can contribute to bringing, let's say order and removing a bit of chaos, if I may put it that way. In other words, also, how can it contribute to transition and transform the informal transport sector to make it, let's say, better, not only for end users, but also for cities and operators. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. So as Emmanuel had mentioned, this third webinar is the third of a series of 3, and we are going to be talking about the topic of informal transport and technology. And in this webinar, we are going to give the floor to 5 startups that are going to present their cutting-edge solutions, technical solutions that have been implemented in the context of informal transport operators. And they are going to present what are these solutions and actually what is the added value that they bring to the transport sector. So we will have speakers from 5 startups, which are Where Is My Transport, Shuttles, Chalo, TRUFI Association, and IC Group, Rwanda. I'm going to be presenting each of the speakers just before they do their presentations. But without more delay, we can pass to initiate and to kick off this part of the session today that we have called speed dating, where each of these 5 startups are gonna present in 5 minutes what are their specific technical solutions, what is their goal of their objectives, and what have been the results on the ground. As I mentioned before, if you have any question during this presentation, please write down in the question in the chat box, and we will be responding to these questions after the roundtable. So the first presentation will be done by Where Is My Transport? Where Is My Transport? Represented by Devin Debries and Chantal Leveau. So Davies is an entrepreneur and a CEO of Where Is My Transport. He leads a team with a vision to bring technological innovation to public transport users in the world, called Where Is My Transport. And Chantal is the head of research in Where Is My Transport, and she has spent the last 15 years working in research, in user research and curation spanning several industries, including mobility and technology. So David and Chantal, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Fatima. Thanks for the introduction. It's wonderful for Chantal and myself to be here with everyone today and to kick off this speed dating session. So yes, introducing Where Is My Transport and our work. So Where Is My Transport is a mobility technology company and the de facto source of public transport data in the majority world. We have, maybe if we could just move on to the next slide. And the one after this, please. Thank you. So, you know, in moving to become that de facto source of information for public transport across these markets, to date, we've already, as a team, collected over 1 million unique kilometers of formal and informal public transport route data across Africa, and more recently across South Asia, Southeast Asia, Eastern Europe, and even Latin America. And the data that we collect supports our client projects and powers our own technological solutions for these emerging market cities. Our strategy and solutions are tailored to markets where informal public transport is the dominant form of transport. And I don't think informal transport needs an introduction to the attendees and the panelists on this call, but for the benefit of the recording, informal transportation is largely transportation that is unsubsidized, independently owned vehicles that operate along fixed and semi-fixed public transport routes. And in terms of the approach that we've taken to collecting this information and also just the work that we do on the ground, our team follows a heavily people-centric approach within both our business as well as the methodologies that we apply within the data that we collect and the solutions that we develop. And some might call this hyper-localization. And just, to define what I mean by localization, it's the process of developing an understanding of a place and tailoring solutions to the needs of that place. And we recognize that having data that is representative of the ground truth within these cities is incredibly important, not just to represent the actual operation of these services, but also in the developing of solutions for people that actually live within these markets. So yeah, at the heart of our work, we support global technological standards and trying to ensure maximum impact with our data so that it's really able to be used by all businesses and organizations. And through the localization, our business has supported an approach to research on the ground that has in turn impacted our goals and solutions. And Chantal will share a little bit more on that.
Thank you so much, Devon. So as mentioned, my name is Chantal Laverne. I have the honor of heading up global research for Where's My Transport, and it's really great to be here with you. Could you flip to the next slide, please? So research is essential for truly understanding the emerging markets and cities and the people that we work with and informing an impactful process and solution. Spending time getting to know commuters on informal and formal public transport means understanding not just their relationship with transport, but their daily commute and understanding how each part of their lives impacts each step of that commute. It's knowing that safety concerns in Mexico means that commuters regularly update their mums and loved ones with their whereabouts, and that the dust in Africa means that some commuters carry a shoe cloth to clean their shoes when they arrive at the office, and that in Asia, a mum traveling with 3 children upon answering a call from her husband to prepare dinner for an extended family will realign her safety and speed concerns to favor a faster route home. Research means better understanding of our markets and making invisible public transport networks visible, like we've done across 4 continents. It powers our own technologies, supports informed client outcomes, and it enables appropriate and effective solutions for majority world markets. I'd like to hand over to Devon for more detail.
Thank you. So thank you, Chantal. Where's My Transport is a truly global business. We began in Cape Town and the tip of Africa and have since, as you've heard, spread to many different countries and across 4 continents. But our work is really about working in the majority world, albeit with clients that are global. At the heart of our work, we focus on GTFS as a data standard, which allows us to provide organizations with the essential information that they need in order to represent the operations of these services within these markets. And at the heart of the data that we provide is filling the gap that exists between the information that these businesses and organizations are used to being able to receive in developed markets and the information that they are currently able to access across majority world cities. Our clients use Where's My Transport's mobility data for everything from evaluating the feasibility of urban development and transportation infrastructure through to powering consumer applications within these markets. This has driven our work with companies such as Google, Toyota Tsusho, and other large tech companies as well, who have not only invested in Where's My Transport, but are looking also creative ways of using our data to have a positive impact on the communities who live within these markets. Because at the end of the day, and I think this is part of the heart of the topic that we're speaking about today, innovation thrives within these cities when they have well-mapped public transport networks. So thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, Devin and Chantal. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions coming out from your presentations for later on. Now we are going to pass to the next presentation that is going to be about shuttles, an on-demand ride-hailing company. This presentation was going to be done by Damilola Olekesusi. I hope I pronounced properly the name. Damilola is a co-founder and the CEO of Shuttles. She has a bachelor degree in chemical engineering from the University of Lagos with experience in process engineering and investment management. She is a member of the Lagos Hub Global Shopper of the World Economic Forum, and she is a Forbes 30 Under 30 recipient for technology. Damilola, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Fatima. It's great to be here. Thank you for joining us. Please, can you go to the next slide? Just to give everyone a background about Shuttlers. Shuttlers is a platform that provides organizations and companies with daily efficient transportation in Lagos. And during the pandemic that hit most, I'm here to share some tips and solutions that helped us adapt very quickly. We're just able to shut down the service for only just 1 month, and we're able to recover quickly within back to how we were running before the pandemic. So we started in 2016, and we're currently on 11 locations and with over 300 destinations in Lagos, and we cater to over 2,500 daily users daily in Lagos. And this the tips and the solutions that we adopted during the pandemic, and which is kind of embedded in our model that helped into bouncing back from the coronavirus. One of the key features of our service is that users are able to pre-book on our platform. This feature helps us to guarantee our partners, who are the bus owners, 100% of their revenue back at the end of the month. Prior to this model, we were not able to guarantee the usage or the capacity on each bus, but because we're able to adopt a subscription model, a pre-booking model, where you can pre-book and confirm the availability on the seat, we have a daily usage. This means that every time our bus is on the road, there are over 80% people on the bus, and that reduces wastage. And another major solution is the payment system that allows users to pay electronically and not pay physical cash, which actually encourages users not to exchange cash and to prevent the contact of the virus and enable them to use the service as well. Also, a major feature that also helped us is the contact tracing during coronavirus. This was one of the reasons why people avoided public transportation, because they were not sure if the users had this virus or they contracted this virus. We had an incident on the shuttle where, because of our data, where we were able to trace where the person that had declared that had the virus were able to be traced on all the buses and all the routes and all the individuals that were contacted during the course of the shuttle. Another major solution that our service provides is the scheduling feature on our application. Users are able to look at the available routes on our platform and pre-book and look at the routes and the nearest bus stop, look at the driver, and all of that information also adds up into the ability for our users to use our service efficiently. Please, next slide. One of the reasons why, one of the perks or the advantages of these solutions are that, number one, it reduces wastage. It prevents bus operators or bus owners to put out their vehicles on the road without them guaranteeing back revenue each day, because they've already wasted fuel and employed the driver to drive the bus on the road. Another perk or advantages of using this model technology is that it increases ridership and daily and increases awareness for the users to use the service as well. It improves customer experience and increases their trust with the operator. And this is one of the reasons, major reasons why it's very important future pandemics, because prior to coronavirus, we had Ebola, and we are not sure of what kind of virus might also happen in the future. And as operators or tech-enabled companies, we need to prepare as well by using technology for future pandemics, so that we can, get prepared and not be hit as the previous months. The impacts of this solution, please next slide. One of the major impacts of this solution is that it will help to sustain the employment of those who are in the company. The drivers can retain their jobs. The support staff of the organizations can retain their jobs, and they can also retain the jobs of the employees or the citizens that are shuttling to and fro work. One of the major benefits of and the reasons why we are in existence is that our mission at Shuttlers is that we want to reduce the number of individual or private cars on the road by reducing emission in the city. But during the coronavirus, because of the trust that was lost on public transportation, most people preferred to use their own cars. So the effect of ensuring that your bus service is well prepared for any future, you're going to have a sustainable system, a good and efficient transportation system in your city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Damilola. This was a very, very interesting presentation from Lagos. We look forward to hearing more in the round table discussion later on. So now we are going to pass to the next presentation that is going to be done by the representatives from AC Group and Kent. This presentation will be done by Shami Eden Benimana and Musa Habineza. Eden is the Chief Operating Officer of Tap and Go at AC Group. He has led the AC Group team in the development of the Tap and Go solutions in Kigali. And Eden is currently pursuing an MBA program in Oklahoma Christian University. Musa is CEO of Kent since 2013 as Smart Transport Technology partner to AC Group. He holds a Master's of Engineering in Systems and Information Engineering from the University of Tsukuba in Japan. So Eden and Musa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Fatima, for the introductions. I will just say a quick word about our system. As you have said, Tap and Go has been providing solutions for 5 years. we've now been providing in the capital city of Rwanda, Kigali, in the intercity from Kigali to other cities across Rwanda, and across the continent. We've now been in 2 other markets. We facilitated over 300 million journeys. So I will now let Musa talk a bit more about what our solutions are about and the benefits to the public companies which use them, to the passengers, and to other institutions. Musa, the word is yours.
Thank you so much, Eden, and also thank you to the UITP team actually organizing the sessions. Maybe we go to the first slide. So as Mr. Eden mentioned, ESSA Group has 2 solutions. One is actually for the city solution, the city of Kigali, the capital of Rwanda, and that is actually a smart card-based solution. So basically, we provide a tap-and-go card, a smart card, and we bought bus validators in the buses. So the city of Kigali has around 3 major bus operators. They are the ones allowed to operate in Kigali, and all of them adopted our solution, the tap-and-go solution for the city. And as Eden mentioned, we have around 2 million people holding our card from 2015. So one of the things we saw since the launch of the card, we saw that it facilitated the fare collection because it was really a major big problem for the bus companies before that. And we saw we saw an improvement in revenue collection because with this card, with this smart card, you had things like allowing people to top up the card using a network of more than 150 agents. And we also have mobile apps that people can use to top their card and pay with mobile money. So the biggest mode of payment in Rwanda is banks and of course mobile money. But mobile money is widely used by the people actually on people using the public transport. So please go to the next slide. Now, if you look at the second slide, we're talking about the effect of the impact and the result of the public transport. We saw an increase of revenue for bus companies more than actually 40%. More than 270 million journey were facilitated, and there is actually in general visibility on what is really happening in the public transport sector. So if you maybe go to the next slide, next to that one, the impacts are so many. So, but the biggest one is actually the visibility, the transparency of revenue by bus companies. There is no more leakage. We had a lot of actually people, when there is cash handling, cash going from one hand to another one, people are just losing money. You don't know where the money is ending. But with cashless, using mode of cashless like tap and go card, you know exactly where your money is. But on top of that one, if you go to the second slide, to the other slide, go to the next slide. With the success of tap and go card in Kigali, we started working together with ESSA Group on the intercity sector. That is buses moving from the main capital to other cities, and we developed a new solution that we launched last year in November. So it's an intercity ticketing solution. We actually made sure that there is an extension of the people who have the card, and they can use it even as a mode of payment going up country. And one of the things we saw is a very huge adoption of the solution. Many people, many companies adopted. We are around 50% as we speak of the bus companies are using our solution. So the solution itself is based on a mobile point of sale that we give, that we provide to bus companies, like a web platform that allows them to do scheduling, mobile apps that passengers can use to make payments, to pay for and book for their tickets. make a payment using mobile money again as a mode of payment with the push notifications. And with that one, bus companies actually tried to adopt the system, and it's been going very well, unless Eden wanted to add something on that.
Also, I think you've mentioned most of the things that we've done. It's an important system for both city and intercity transport, and I think we'll be waiting for the questions to actually give more details on what we do. Thank you very much. Fatma, back to you.
Thank you very much. That was a very, very interesting presentation, and actually very relevant for the discussion today about innovation in transport, but also, for example, for the discussion we have in the last webinar about informal sector reforms, and then how this kind of fair collection solutions can actually bring transparency to the whole revenue generating process in the sector. That is fundamental actually for the reforms in the sector. So thank you very much for this presentation. Now we are going to pass to the next one, to the fourth presentation, that is going to be about Chalo. The presentation is going to be delivered by Mohit Dubey. Mohit is the CEO of Chalo. He will tell us more about Chalo in a second. But I would like to tell you about him that before his position as CEO of Chalo, he founded he founded and served as a CEO in Car Whale and Bike Whale in India, which is the first automotive portals for cars and two-wheelers. And he has served and managed teams in other companies. Mohit holds a Bachelor in Science degree and an MBA in Finance. So over to you, Mohit. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Fatima, and the team at UITP. Hello, everyone. Before I tell you about our technology solution, let me tell you two things, which are quite unique to India and maybe for other developing countries. In India, 70% of all buses are run by small private operators. These operators own 2 or 3 buses each. They are so small that they neither have the money nor the mind share to think about a customer experience and adopt technologies. As a result, more than 150 million Indians who take buses for their daily commute, they come out of their house every day and wait typically at the bus stop for 20 minutes. Now they do so in the heat, in cold, and in the rains. They have no visibility what time my next bus will come. They have to buy the tickets in cash, even in the times of COVID-19, when we all know that exchanging currency note has a very, very high risk of infection. Also, if I can ask you to go to slide number 1. Yeah, the next one. Yeah, thank you. So Chalo solves this by live tracking buses in the city and offer commuters a real-time arrival time of the bus on their mobile phone. Like in Uber experience, you can just really see what time the bus will come and you can see it live. So that no one has to ever wait at the bus stop. The next thing that we do is to make the ticketing inside the bus digital and very safe. Chalo provides the infrastructure inside the bus and the consumer app, as well as the NFC smart card for buying tickets and passes. And the last thing is Chalo's technology stack, which is like an operating system for running bus operations. While this is the tech part of the solution, I think what we have really innovated is our engagement with the operator. All of this is offered to the operator at no upfront cost. We go to the operator and offer all of this for free. Instead, we enter into a revenue share arrangement with the operator. We make buses more reliable and therefore a much better customer experience, and more people take buses. As more people take buses, operators' revenue typically goes up and Chalo takes a share of that. So that's how we really operate. You can go to the next slide. The next one. Yeah, and we do this because we want to ensure that daily commutes in our cities is significantly better. Cities in emerging markets are quite unique. Here the population in the last few decades, like 50, 60 years, have gone up much faster than the infrastructure or deployment of the public transport. Half of India travels in buses. And this is so even when India got just 2 buses for every 10,000 people. Now compare this with 30 buses for 10,000 people in Europe, or 60 buses for 10,000 people in some of the cities in China. So while India needs 10 times more buses, given the poor customer experience and operators struggle to make buses sustainable, it's not really changing. And overall, a customer experience has been broken. Chalo uses a tech and unique business model to improve the customer experience. And result speaks for itself. In 3 of our cities, we have grown the ridership by 26%, 22%, and even 70% in less than 12 months of our operations over there. All of this makes buses sustainable and therefore create the possibility to add more buses, by the operator and by the cities. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah, and the next one. Okay, as a result, Chalo got its presence in 30 cities of India. And over the last 2 years of our implementing this model, Chalo has emerged as India's #1 transport technology company. Today on our network, we deliver more than 45 million rides every month. We track more than 14,000 buses live on the consumer phones, and it helps millions of daily commuters save their time and hassles. India's cities are changing, and we believe that we could help other countries and emerging markets with our product and experience. In fact, after the COVID-19, in one of the cities, we have been running completely cashless buses. And the experiment has been very, very successful. Operators, regulators, and commuters has been very, very accepting of these changes, actually. And this is all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mohit, for this presentation. It has been very, very interesting, the experience of Chalo in India, and definitely very much applicable to other contexts in other developing cities that suffer similar challenges as they are suffering in India. So now let's pass to the fifth presentation, the last of the presentation of this section on speed dating. The presentation is going to be delivered by Christoph Hanser from TRUFI Associations. Christoph is the president and the technology leader of behind TRUFI app, a journey planner app, and he is also the CEO of Cubic, a Hamburg-based technology integrator that streamlines and transforms business processes leveraging multiple platforms. So, Christoph, the floor is yours. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Can you see my screen? Can you hear my voice?
Yes, very well.
Excellent. So thank you very much for giving us the stage from TRUFI. I'm actually based in Germany, but in reality, we are international NGO operating on different continents, and most of my colleagues are from South America, Africa, and Asia. And together we formed the TRUFI Association, which is an NGO that develops services and apps around informal transport. And the idea of our solution is that each city out there can customize TRUFI app to their own city and give their passengers and users a better experience in public transport. I'm going to present first the solution. So TRUFI app is the most known service that we have. It's a white label app, multi-modal journey planner. So it tells people how to get from A to B, basically, including different buses, formal transport, informal transport, gondolas, walking distance. So really door to door with all connections available. It's white label. That means that it can easily be adapted and customized to any city out there. You will see later in which cities we are right now. It's also released under open source, which means that you can easily create a fork out of the app and make the changes so that it works for your city or your region. It works for Android, for iOS, and also it's not only open source, but also supporting open data. So most of the projects we are doing put their data of bus lines to OpenStreetMap. So we also teach community how to do this. On the one hand, we have TRUFI app, which is for the end users, the passengers, but we also allow some or provide some services just around this that help also other parts of public transport. One is the driver app, so that drivers know the route as well, and they can share their GPS location. We have dashboards both for cities and agencies, so that cities can plan their public transport better, get a better control and understanding of it, and also for operators to see where the buses are and where they can improve as well. We customize the app for any city out there. Of course, it's open source. You can also do it on your own, but we are happy to help as well to bring TRUFI to your own city. So the goal of our solution is really to empower informal public transport. What do I mean with that? Empowerment means that we help cities and regions to really improve their public transport and understand it on their own. So it's therefore it's open source and open data, because we don't hide our solutions. Everyone, the cities themselves, can use it for their own analytics, for their own improvement, for their own features. So we are mapping semi-formal public transport. Of course, that's the thing we have to do in all the cities where it's not already done, like from other fantastic companies also in this round. We help to improve then the planning with this transport data, be it bus lines or also user data. Where do the people go? Really interesting is also, where do people not have good search results in our app? So where are routes and good connections missing? And that is important, because we think that a good public transport really makes the whole livelihood much, much better. This way, also cities gain full transparency, as well as passengers, like where are the routes, how are the fares, how can I get from A to B? And that's not only interesting for tourists, that's also interesting for the people living in the cities and just going to a place they haven't visited before. So that's really why we see door-to-door journey planners are not only something for cities like in Hamburg, where I am living, but for all other countries as well. I said empowerment because we really focus on specific things. So we use OpenStreetMap mainly because we think that route data should be shared among all people. Our app is open source because we believe that many cities out there don't have to reinvent the wheel and create their own app, but they can copy paste the app so that they have their own style, their own looking, but still same technology. We are committed to global goals, SDG 11, if you're familiar with it, and also committed to the principles of digital development, so that it really improves the lives of hopefully many people. What are the effects? We have been launching TRUFI app in Cochabamba 2 years ago. So TRUFI is just the local name of a minibus in Cochabamba. So it would be Jeepney app in Manila, Dala Dala app in Dar es Salaam, Matatu app in Kenya, wherever we use it, the name can be different. We started with TRUFI app, then we created TRUTRO app in Accra, Yeneguso in Addis Abeba, Busboy in Duitama, and we are talking with other cities and authorities right now to bring the app into their cities, and are happy to get more cities on board. The uptake was really interesting. Many downloads after releases and very happy reviews in the app stores. So my favorite one is from Cochabamba. Was once when I use a TRUFI app, I feel like in Europe or the US. So that was really nice. We don't think a feeling is better in the US or Europe, but we really think that people in all over the world deserve to get good public transport services, and even informal transport can be perfectly used and optimized so that you would definitely know when it's the best option to go from A to B. Thank you very much for listening. Just in case you want to get in contact, for each continent we have a direct contact, Leonardo, David, Mark, and their email addresses are easy to remember: America, Africa, Asia @trufiassociation.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Christoph. That was a super interesting presentation that you have done about TRUFI Association. I'm very happy to see that there are some cities you've been working in Africa region, which is a region that I I've been working for a while, so so very happy to see that, and looking forward to the discussion that is coming up. So now, if you allow me, we are gonna pass to the second part of this discussion with these 5 startups. And what we are gonna be doing, it is a roundtable where I'm gonna be asking these companies about the real challenges they're having on the ground implementing these solutions, and I'm very interested to learn more, in particular, on what are the challenges that they have been having in the interaction with users, with the public sector, and with operators. To start this discussion, I would like to ask first our colleagues from AC Group, Eren and Musa. You have presented us before the ticketing system that you have been putting in place in Kigali, and for interurban services. It is clear the great impact that it has in the transparency side, in helping the operations. But I would like to ask you, what are the challenges on another dimension? It's more on the user side. So I would like to ask you, what has been the challenges that you have faced actually to integrate different groups, for example, low-income groups that might not have maybe access to banking account, or to access to technology, etc. Challenges, for example, with women, with people with disabilities. So what has been the challenges integrating these groups into the solution for public transport, and how you have been tackling those challenges?
Thank you, Fatma. I'll go first, and then I'll let Musa go. I'll talk about the challenges in the city of Kigali. Musa will talk about the intercity sector. So when we started our solution in 2015, the first challenge was actually a challenge of having a solution that is inclusive, considering technology as in what we wanted to accomplish, which is digitization and rendering payments cashless, but also the available means on the market, which in 2015, the penetration of smartphones and other solutions, including the internet, wasn't as high as it is today. So the first challenge we faced was that, but we found a solution. That's why we actually went with NFC card. An NFC card is very easy to get by, but it's also very easy to distribute among people. So we took it upon ourselves to, one, find a solution which is card-based, and then distribute it to the 1.2 million people in Kigali. So we created the network where a person can buy a card and also come back tomorrow to load the card. Once that was taken care of, we now started to upgrade slowly, as Musa has mentioned. So from there, we started now to upgrade to go to allowing mobile money to top up the card, allowing people to do it themselves, and then we created the tap and go application, which now, from where you can do all of this, you can load your card, but now we are allowing it to also buy a ticket to go to either intercity. So once the technology aspect was taken care of, now we went to the education aspect. We are talking about 1.2 million people who had to be moved from paying with cash to paying with the technological means which they weren't used to before. And that campaign was actually the longest. It's still running, but it has had additional benefits, not just for the transport sector, but actually for the whole IT sector, ICT sector in Rwanda, but even for the banking sector. So once the tap and go card was accepted, it was easy for a person to understand, I can get a banking card. Actually, one of the things that I can go back to now is we allowed for our card to not be tapped to a banking sector in the beginning, because not everybody was banked. Part of our task was to actually bring not just the transport sector, but the whole population into the formal sector, into the banking sector. So now, once they have the tap and go card, they can easily go to the bank, create accounts, because they understand the whole process. The issue of disabilities actually comes, how do we facilitate people who have disabilities to travel on the bus? That comes with the benefits of what we did. So once we were able to work with bus companies, they were able to now bring bigger vehicles which actually have some of these amenities which are oriented to facilitating trips for people with disabilities. So they were able to now buy better passes which can facilitate for this. That was through year 2, year 4 of what we were doing. So slowly, we're actually making sure that anybody who didn't have a means, a solution in what we're doing before can actually be taken in. Musa, I think I'll let you go to the intercity sector now.
Thank you so much, Edith. Much of it is actually almost the same thing. When you come to the public transport, the challenges are mostly the same. But one of the main things I can actually say as a startup is that the public transport sector is not really an easy sector to go in as a startup. Like, it requires a lot of money, it requires a lot of investment, it requires a lot of marketing budget, which is actually something most of the startups do not really have. But we tried our best. We tried to work with regulators, government regulators, bus companies, to educate people actually in the adoption of the solutions themselves. When we started back in the intercity sector, people were also used at collecting money, like collecting cash. So they were not really into the idea of allowing mobile payments, card payment, or anything. So there is a challenge to telling people that you don't really need to bring cash when you want to board the bus. You can instead pay using your phone. You can instead pay using your card. So that challenge is ongoing, but as we've looked at the number lately, the numbers are going high. That's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think that the area of inclusion is definitely a key area of concern in public transport, how we can design systems that are more inclusive. Here, I would like to ask a question to our colleagues from What is My Transport, who in their presentation, they told us that they follow what they call a people-centric approach or research in their work. So I would like to ask you to tell us a little bit more, what do you mean by that? What are you doing on this, following this people-centric approach? And what are the solutions you are putting on the ground to make the systems more inclusive?
Chantal, please, this is your area of expertise.
Great. So when thinking about overcoming challenges, I think the easiest is for me to share some recent work from developing our consumer application for public transport users in Mexico. Developing a true understanding of the needs of the market and not making assumptions based on solutions we've seen and we're all familiar with in developed markets was really central to creating a consumer product that's hyperlocal. It needed to be built on an ever-changing knowledge that came from continuous in-field research and testing. And connecting with our users is a real challenge, right? They're traveling incredibly long hours, sometimes from 2 to 5 hours per day. Predominantly, they're mobile first and have pretty unreliable Wi-Fi access. So this meant that updating apps, using apps, and even interviewing them, especially during a pandemic, it's a lot more challenging. Given the economic status of our consumer, we also have to build for much older phones. That makes, just to ensure that a consumer product will work again across all varieties. And I mean, think about it. If we designed an application for the current iOS edition, who would use it in these markets? We found that our consumers are really resilient, they're resourceful, and they're proud of their hard-won knowledge of their transport systems. They learned these roots just like most of us did in developing nations from their moms and then close family members. And that circle of advice and knowledge expanded into communities as they traveled further and further for work. We know that our commuters rely on several tools to get them close to education and work opportunities, from familiar faces who help them navigate to the array of digital tools they rely on. And that's why when we built the consumer project that we're building, we knew that it was just one tool in an entire transport toolkit. So we didn't want to become just a journey planner. Many would assume that that was the right solution, But we want it to become just another vital, valuable tool amongst all the others that help them navigate their daily lives. That's anything from an informal trader who knows the city much better than anybody else in that area, all the way to several platforms that they use to create a really unique mapping of all the spaces they go into. So we looked outside of traditional ways of navigating, and we tried to get a little more creative, looking at how people were solving it themselves. Given that many of the communities we work in were, and some still are, illiterate, and that for most, the national language is not always the first language, we know that there's a heavy reliance on iconography. So the people we design for are design literate, they're tech savvy, and they usually come from quite visually rich backgrounds. Knowing this allowed us the freedom to really hyper-localize and to focus on creating an enjoyable experience of the product for our consumer. One of the greatest challenges our commuters face is obviously safety. We all know that coming from the spaces. But unable to create a safe traveling experience, most of our commuters have these regular check-ins with loved ones. I mean, growing up in South Africa, checking in is as much a part of my daily commute as making sure I have change in my pocket to pay the taxi driver. And that's regardless of gender and age. Although saying that, I was even surprised when recently a young man dressed in track pants, one leg rolled up and a cigarette behind his ear, proudly told us that he always checks in with his mom before, during, and after every trip. But safety isn't the only reason that he and many commuters in majority world nations need check-ins. As people travel, the context of their travel changes, and that very much depends on family needs as they're traveling and transport unreliability. So as mentioned before, a consumer might need to suddenly get home faster, like a mom with 3 children who spoke about safety and traveling on buses over motor taxis with children, but when receiving a call about a bunch of dinner guests arriving and that the figures had doubled, she had to transfer herself and her children into motor taxis to get home safely. The decisions are in a quadrant of safety, affordability, comfort, and time, and those quadrants are in constant flux. Those decisions have to change on a moment-to-moment basis. And so it's really important that our product addresses this, turning our work to digitizing invisible, informal public transport networks to giving people the options that they need.
Thank you, Chantal. I think that's all, Fatima.
Thank you very much, Chantal. Very, very impressive response and very interesting work that you have been developing in Mexico. I would like now to pass the question and to ask similar question to our colleague Christoph from TRUFI, TRUFI Association, that has presented us before the technological solution. Can you tell us a little bit more on this end user of your technological solution and what has been the challenges working with them, and then how you have been addressing those challenges?
Thank you. So I think the biggest challenge really in the countries where we're working is getting a knowledge about the bus lines, the bus routes, the network. Where do the bus lines go? Also the pirate lines, the not licensed ones. And also keeping this data updated in the long run so that it does not only work once you made it, but also after years. That had been or is still the biggest challenge. And what we did is we train communities so that they can collect all the necessary data with tools and also with questionnaires so that you would know also at which hours do operators go, which are the specialities. For example, in Bolivia, it's very typical that one road goes from A to B, and then there are 5 different lines that go to the suburbs. So all these specialities you have to take care of. And so one thing was to train communities how to collect it. We definitely saw a big benefit in going open source for the data so that it belongs to the whole community, not only into us or to someone else, but that it really belongs to everyone. That's why we chose OpenStreetMap. That only gives us access to many people, many mappers out there that are improving the bus lines in the long run. Not only the ones we trained, but also others that just live in the same cities and areas. And that also fits to our plan to really empower people so that it's their thing to do and to improve and to analyze. And the second thing about like getting all the data once the network, which is the big challenge, the next thing is keeping it updated. So we all know that Google and big companies, they use our data to, they use big data to improve things. And we're very happy that we have a feature in TRUFI app so that the passengers themselves help to update the route. So when a user uses a line which is missing or is not up to date, or he just wants to share the information, we're going to ask him sometimes, but he can contribute. And then we have in the backend a team of people, professionals that use this data and update platforms like OpenStreetMap so that the data is accurate and updated. And that's a very thrilling thing because we can use big data also that cities now know where their public transport is. I think that's the biggest challenge. Then there are much more, but that's the very basic one I would like to talk about.
Thank you very much, Christoph. And I think it's extremely interesting the work you have been doing with this community engagement, trying to get the local community being empowered to use this technological solution and own it, rather than just bringing something from outside that has to be managed from outside. So it's definitely very interesting. Very interesting solution.
1 second, and maybe just to emphasize this, not only the users and the communities, but also the cities that can do their own analytics with the data and their own development of new features. So that's the whole idea. Sorry.
Perfect. No, thank you very much, Christoph, because this is a perfect transition with the next question I wanted to ask. That I wanted to ask to Mohit from Chalo. Because we are aware in many instances in the global south, there's sometimes issues with government that have maybe limited regulations on public transport. They might have limited capacity. So I wanted to ask you, Mohit, from your experience in India, how this has been this interaction with government? What were the challenges? And if you can share with us some of the lessons learned and on how you have overcome the challenges to implement the solutions.
Yeah, thank you, Fatima. This is a great question, actually. There are multiple challenges from a regulation to infrastructure and so on and so forth. But the biggest challenge, I think, is the lack of financial resources. And let me explain that. In the large cities like, Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, the government run the buses, and they run these buses with huge losses. So much so losses that they're not able to really scale these buses. In Bombay got 4,000 buses, they got 4,000 buses for last many years. The city might need now 10,000 buses, but they are not able to really grow that. And therefore, this model of government owning and running buses is already a failure. And everybody understands that. Government should neither be running airlines, nor trains, nor buses, to be honest. But as you go, beyond these 3-4 large cities, and you go to hundreds of next layer of towns, the government does not run the buses there. It has been left to the private entrepreneurs, to come up and run these buses. Government regulate the buses, but they have not been able to make bus experience better. And consumers struggle, with an overall experience and with an unreliable bus network. That's because operators are also really, really small, and they do not have ability to implement technology at their own. So overall, neither government has the financial resources to run all the buses themselves, nor they can offer it to the private operators, right, at a minimal cost or at literally no cost. Especially after COVID, the authorities and regulator has been literally cash-starved. The taxes has been literally vanished for last couple of months, and government borrows money themselves, to pay the salaries. And therefore, this is quite unique here in my opinion. And what we are trying to address here is by, our business model. You go to the operator, implement the full tech solution, and you make money only when you really improve the customer experience, make the buses more reliable, and more people take the buses. And that's where you start saying, okay, I'll put my money where my mouth is. If my technology can't improve the customer experience, if I can't really go and put more people in the buses, I literally have no right to make money, so that's this is where the struggle is. I think if you solve for that, and therefore if you have enough buses, then you make a much more reliable bus network, and therefore everything else could be solved. I mean, when the government struggles so much, they're not really able to implement regulations very well. They may want to track every bus, but they can't really track, right? Who will deploy the GPS? Who will digitize the route, and so on and so forth? You can say it could be a policy, but you can't really enforce it. So I think it comes down to the financial abilities and resources, of implementing it. I'll take a pause if you have a question.
Thank you very much, Mohit. So I'm gonna pass to another continent now, and I would like to ask to Damilola a similar question that I asked to Mohit about what has been the experience in the context of Nigeria to implement these technological solutions in having into account the perspective from government and the relationship with government, and how you dealt with those challenges.
Thank you very much, Fatima. At the initial stage, we faced a lot of bottlenecks, and we were very optimistic because we thought that it was going to be easy peasy, because we actually won a competition that we're able to meet the president and the vice president at the very early stage, where we're still at the idea stage. But we realized that we had to show traction, and we had to show like an example of what we're trying to create before partnering with the government. And so we went back to our operations and just showed what we could do, and we've showed that example by the fleet of buses that we are able to provide to private organizations and individuals daily, efficiently and profitably as well. And we've now started conversations with the government. Over the past 8 months, we've been talking to LBSL, which is the Lagos Bus company that runs the new government buses in Lagos. There are still conversations ongoing into how we can have a win-win collaboration. And if they're now more receptive because of the data they can see and what we are promising them as well with partnering with us on our platform. So that is the current situation.
Thank you very much, Damilola, for this sharing with us this experience. Now, I would like to go to another perspective, which is more of the operator's perspective. So, on this regard, we can imagine that maybe in many cities, the operators that are working in these cities in Lagos, most of them are informal operators, and the operators they might not have incentives in principle to get on board with this kind of technological solutions. And there may be like a lack of acceptability from the operator side. So maybe if you can tell us what has been the experience on your side, working and involving the informal operators in the implementation and deployment of the technological solution.
Thank you so much, Fatima. So I would also refer to while we started, because we started our operations very, very lean because we didn't get so much funding to start at the beginning. So we learned like on the street, literally. We started as operators ourselves by starting with one bus, a mini bus, so we could learn the challenges of running a bus. Before we changed our model to working with bus partners. Currently on our platform, we partner with over, I think our partners, 70% of them are the informal bus owners, just like Chalo said, that most of them have 2 or 3 buses on our platform, while the formal ones, who are the private companies, the big organizations, are more structured. So at the beginning, we thought that we could do a shared formula where, irrespective of the number of people that we will carry on our platform, we would have a sharing formula. But we realized that the challenges to Lagos and Nigeria are very, very peculiar. They only wanted us to guarantee their income at the end of the month. they did not really care much about solutions that we're trying to solve, how we're going to solve it. They just had a minimum revenue they were going to receive at the end of the month. Then we tweaked our model to ensure that we can guarantee 80 to 100% customers on our platform, so that when we get those buses from our partners, we can still get about 30% revenue, even when we guarantee them income at the end of the month. So our platform is very, very profitable for bus operators right now, because they can sleep, go to bed once they buy buses and come on our platform, and they're guaranteed that in 18 months they get their ROI back on those buses. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Damilola. So I would like to come back to Mohit on the same point. Now, from the perspective of India, how has been this engagement with the informal operators, and how they have been accepted or not these kind of solutions to be implemented on the ground?
Yeah, so Fatima, private operators are really, really small. For most of them, this is not even their primary job. Some of them will have a shop, or they might have another profession, and they have invested some money to buy a few buses and have them run in the cities. So an operator's profile is very, very different. They are not interested in technology itself. And even if they know that this is going to help them in the long run, they can't really afford to make a significant investment today. So companies before us have gone to them and said, we can deploy great technology for you. It would be so good if you invest, say, $200 per bus. Or they would say, you know what, why don't you pay me $15 per month and I can deploy all of this thing. But the operators are not really open to all these things. So what we do, we address it by, as I said, by taking over the whole deployment cost of hardware and the software. And let us say we have solved this problem for time being. And we've done it for maybe like 4,000 buses now. However, the real challenge, I think, is beyond operator. It's not the operator, but the crew inside the bus. And that has the resistance to change. And the digitization is going to hurt their ability to take out the money from the pilferage every day. So if the bus makes $100 a day, the crew is taking away like $10 to $15, every day home. And if when you digitize it, when you improve the customer experience significantly, they are the one to hurt the most. And therefore, we have to solve the operator, and then we have to find incentive to solve for the crew as well. So they adopt the technology. And we not only incentivize them to use it, we also penalize them at times. By you can lay off, or you can implement really certain standards in terms of if they compromise on the customer experience, if they compromise on not using the technology, they get penalized for it actually. So it's a two-pronged approach. We get the operators and take all the headache. That would range from deploying technology, training crew, and improving overall bus experience, and then actually improve the ridership, and also solve the crew experience as well. That's all.
Thank you very much, Mohit. So I think with this, we are gonna finish the roundtable discussion. I think it was an extremely interesting discussion, hearing from really experience from the ground and real challenges that all of you are facing. We are very good in terms of timing. So now what we are going to do is we are going to ask some of the questions that some of you have been posting in the chat box. We might not have time to present all the questions. So potentially what we are going to be doing is if we are not able to answer all the questions, we are going to be sending a response later on by email. So let me go to the key questions that we got. So I'm gonna read it. So while we are looking at advancing the technology, what do you have planned for those who do not have access to internet or a device? What could fall back to SMS for users without internet, but what about who do not have a device? So I would like to just open the discussions to any of the speakers. So the question it is about how not to leave anybody behind in the process, and how to make sure that even those that don't have an internet or a smartphone can actually benefit from these technological solutions to get better integrated in the planning or in the implementation process. So maybe first Devin and then after Christoph.
Yeah, so thanks, Fatima, and for whoever the question poster was. I can just speak very briefly on two things Roseman Transport has been looking at in this regard. Firstly, as a way of supporting individuals who do not have access to devices, we've actually sought to set up, can you call it, people in the field that have access to our core information. I mean, a lot of what Christoph was touching on was, you know, the vast impact that just having the basic information about routes and where they go and how to use them and their operating hours, that information alone can be highly impactful, because people still, for the most part, rely on word of mouth and finding the appropriate person next to them that can give them that information. But that is one of the things that we've done. So, you know, in South Africa, you'd refer to them as the taxi ranks. Here in Mexico, you'd refer to them as the SETRAMs. And at these large mobility interchanges, we actually set up people in the field that have access to the information, and they often wear bibs, and people can go to them and get access to this information. Something else that we've also been in discussions with is some of the larger tech companies have solutions that are what you can call zero-rated services. And so how do we actually develop technologies to provide a sort of lightweight access to information service through these zero-rated services? And examples of this would be, you know, WhatsApp here in Latin America, or Line and WeChat in Southeast Asia. So those are just two ways that we've gone about trying to alleviate this challenge.
Thank you, Devin. So Christoph, yeah, I think you're muted. Yeah.
Yes, so that's a really big challenge. So at TRUFI, since we've been really talking about offline usage of the app, like without any maps, without the search itself. And so that's a really big challenge for software developers, but we came out with some solutions that really need a minimal device, so not no device. That's really difficult for digital solutions, but like a minimal device. So we have a chatbot that works with Telegram, Facebook, and such, where people also can type in and ask and get the answers, and also like pictures of the route. We have a version for analphabetic people, or we are creating a version for analphabetic people, so that they can just the voice message to do this. And the app is so low level that also very old smartphones can still use it. So that's our contribution to have a really like a low level thing. Also, we found out, for example, that was in Madagascar and Antananarivo. We saw that only 14% of the people have a smartphone with mobile data. So, but Facebook usage is for free. So that's why we came out with the chatbot, so that people can use other media to get the same information and the same help without having to have the app. That's from my side.
Thank you, Christoph. So over to Mosa. You want to share with us your thoughts?
Yes. So what we did in Rwanda, let's say for the intercity sector, for the buses going from Kigali to the rest of the country, majority of the people do not really own smartphones, and the rest of them actually own feature phones. So we worked with bus companies. We provided them with a vertical device. It's a mobile point of sale that they use to capture that information about passengers. So this device is developed in a way that it can really work in very, very low connectivity areas where people are actually relying on 2G edge to connect to the internet. So there, our application is still working, and we gather all that information. So that was pretty much our contribution to this course. And also having USSD application that do not really rely on internet for people to buy their ticket and get it in an SMS. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mosa. Damilolo, you want to come in?
Yes, just wanted to just add something there that for our service, we understand that there might be challenges, even though we focus more on the upwardly mobile part of the population. We understand that there are challenges with internet connection, or maybe the phone is just bad, or they did not even just charge their phone because of electricity. So we have an offline service and a system that helps users to call their bus captain. So on each of the bus, apart from the driver, we have allocated somebody on the bus who is a customer that's like the bus captain, like the class prefect, that they can call for booking and tracking of their buses without the application. Just by calling the customer service or calling the bus captain, the person is able to board the bus and track the bus as well.
Very good. Thank you very much. So we have a few other questions, but if you allow me, what we are gonna do is to respond to those questions by email and send to all of you later on after this session. We are gonna try to more or less conclude in time. So for that, we are gonna pass now on the conclusion part of the session. So in this conclusion, basically, we will gonna have closing remarks by Mr. Feizula and Mr. Mustafa. So I would like to pass the mic to Mr. Feizula to provide us some closing remarks.
Okay, do you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, very well.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank all of our speakers for their presentation. During the presentation, I tried to take some notes. In general, I note 15 words that they use too much. First of all, they talk about the visibility of the data. It is very important to have the data, because if you don't have any data, you cannot manage the system. So the collecting data is very important, and also they talk about this. Carbon reduction is very important. It has been talked also. Traffic congestion, also another important topic, and it has been told about that. Employment, another topic, and we know that the investment on public transport increase the employment. Planning, this kind of tools help us to plan the network and to plan the service. And many presenter talks about the riderships, for Indian example, for example, by applying this kind of tools, increased 25% increase in ridership. And another important topic is the satisfaction of the customer. So by using the tools and the apps, increase the satisfaction of the customer. Efficiency also helps to increase the efficiency of the system. Predictability and the reliability of the service, again, we have been touched on that. We can control the health condition because of the pandemic. Also, it has been needed very much. Sustainability, again, another topics. We can have increased sustainability by using this kind of tools. And increased trust, another important topic, and digitalization help us in this manner also. We have seen that the income also increased, another topic, very important topic of the operator, the income and the profit. We have been talking about money leakage come from the crew or driver, etc., because they against this kind of application, because of they are doing this kind of things. And I don't want to say that the words they are stealing the owner of or operator, but it is the reality. So we have seen that the digitalization is very important topics and is a win-win solution. You know, a customer can benefit from the digitalization, operator can benefit, and also authority also can benefit from the digitalization of innovative solution. But we have seen that there are many challenges with the, in some part, there are some regulation problems, legal framework missing, and there are some challenges with the operators, and there are some challenges with the technology, and we have some region, we have some people that don't have this kind of technology, phone with Wi-Fi, with internet, etc. So again, as a last word, I would like to thank all of the speakers that share their expertise, and also I would like to thank the SSATP and UITP by organizing these meetings. And as a total, digitalization is a framework that helps us to increase the efficiency of the system and to increase the passenger satisfaction and help us to formalize the system that the user of the system will be more happy than now. Thank you very much for attending and listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Feyzullah. I would like now to invite Mustafa to do some closing remarks also from SSATP side.
Thank you, Fatima. This is a very interesting session. I learned a lot myself. It's very hard to summarize all the discussions, but my takeaways, anyway, listening to the presentation, is technology might not be really that big challenge as soon as we use a demand-driven approach. If we use a gradual approach to adapt the platform to the existing technology, I think that could be solved. The example of Rwanda is quite different in that sense, where if the smartphones and the penetration is not high, then the use of what they call NFC cards, it's very important. So you can gradually adapt the application to the available technology. The importance of education, sensitization, getting the banking system involved as a partner, the importance of training the communities and updating the data and having regular feedbacks. This is all a very important one. Where I struggled with is really on the challenges regarding the operators. It's clearly the examples that were given in Nigeria and in India. The fragmentation of the market is still a big challenge. The professionalization of this informal sector is really becoming more and more a priority if we have to use these technologies in an efficient way. And here, I think the presenters talked about also the lack of financial resources. In a context where there is an informal sector, where the financing are not high, this is where really a regulator needs to step in. If it requires some retrofitting of the buses to enable this technology to be mainstreamed, this is where a regulator can step in. This is where the government can step in as part of the professionalization of the sector. So I see really a big gap there that can be filled if we aim at mainstreaming this technology. I'm not talking about the benefits of this. We don't want to spend too much time about that in terms of climate change, efficiency, the satisfaction of the customer. We've seen the examples of India, how ridership increased dramatically. But again, we need a push here, and this is where really a good and capable regulator can play a great role. So all in all, I think I learned a lot myself, and thank you very much for all the presenters. That was a really an excellent session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mustafa. Just maybe if Emmanuel from UITP want to also say some closing remarks.
Thank you, everyone. Really great presentation. Good conclusions. We'll come out with some key takeaways, written key takeaways, and we'll also take a bit of time to lay back and also write some conclusions and recommendations for the coming steps. That's the end of the series of the 3 webinars that we have co-organized. Maybe we could ask everyone who has spoken today to turn on their camera, and we probably can come to the conclusion of this series of webinars. And we'll be really happy to carry on working on this topic of informal transport within UITP, of course, and of course with World Bank SSATP. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, and thank you to all the participants. It has been a real pleasure to be moderating today the session, and a fantastic session where I think I also learned a lot from all of you, and looking forward to continue the discussion.
Thank you for moderating for us,
Thanks.
Fatima.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Fatima.
Thank you for the fantastic chance.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.